Welcome to the Prison Professors Podcast. We serve people who face challenges with prosecution, sentencing, and prison. My co-founders are Sean Hopwood and Justin Paperny. My name is Michael Santos. We create digital content and our team offers individual consulting services. We also assist agencies that want to improve outcomes. To learn how we can help you, text the word PrisonPro to 44222. Again, text PrisonPro to 44222 and get our free brochure. You can also visit us at prisonprofessors.com or contact Justin at 818-424-2220. Please subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. Send confirmation that you reviewed our podcast and we'll send you a free digital book. Stay tuned for a 20 to 30-minute episode of Prison Professors.
But what I really feel great is when I can present a real, living, breathing mastermind. We just concluded the first episode with Dr. Jesse De La Cruz, one of the most inspiring people you'll ever meet. Why? Because he went through more than 30 years in prison, but came out as an extraordinary success because of his transformation inside. We all can learn from people like Jesse De La Cruz, Dr. Jesse De La Cruz. I like to give him that respect. Dr. De La Cruz, thank you so much for spending more of your time with us today. We concluded our last episode with you talking about the importance of developing a conscience. Could you continue with a little bit more insight on what you meant by that and how developing a conscience influenced your life?
Well, growing up in the neighborhood, growing up in a violent environment and being part of the violent environment, I didn't really have a conscience, man. I mean, I did what I did and I thought it was good to do what I did. I mean, everybody that I knew respected what I did. They looked up to what I did. And, there were terrible things, man. They were not nice things. Then when I came to this new way of living, I realized that the way that I thought it was supposed to be was not really the way it was supposed to be. So that I had to unravel all the garbage that I had created, because I created it. Other people helped me, circumstances helped me to develop the lack of conscience, the lack of feeling, the lack of remorse, all those things that are pretty innate in a human being, right? So I had to begin this whole, and what happened was, I remember the day that actually I started that process, really. I remember it clearly. I was sitting outside about 4 o'clock in the morning because, doing time, I always wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. That's the way I did it in the penitentiary, and that's what I do now. And so I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I have this little ritual, brush my teeth, bada bam, all that, make a cup of coffee. Well, I was at the treatment center. I went and got my coffee and I was sitting there. And all of a sudden, for no reason whatsoever, I started to cry, man. It was but it wasn't a regular, it wasn't one of those cries. It was like, a gut-wrenching cry. And it appeared to me at the time, like, that I was like releasing fermented ugliness, garbage that I had pushed down to the pit of my gut, all the way down to my nutsack, I guess, to be ugly about it, and so I was crying, and I remember thinking, looking up and like, God, right, and thinking, what are you doing, man? Because I couldn't stop crying. And I heard the voice say, go ahead, man, it's all right. And it seemed to me afterwards, like I didn't feel it immediately, but I remember like a couple of days later, I thought, hey, you know what? I don't have that empty void in my soul anymore. I don't have it. It's gone. It's removed. I don't know what happened to it.
You made your own freedom.
Yeah, it was my freedom.
You created your own liberty. You created it through your own purging of the evil and bringing the good that is naturally inside of you, bringing it back.
Right. But I wanted to tell people, because I was excited, right? But I didn't tell nobody because I said, they're not going to believe me, right? They're not going to believe me. They're going to think I'm crazy. So anyway, it went, there was little things that would happen. I became a member of Alcoholics Anonymous because I wasn't a wino, but alcohol led me to shooting heroin. Shooting heroin led me to stabbing people and robbing people and all those things. So the foundation for my recovery to transform is founded on the basic principles of Alcoholics Anonymous, which is faith, hope, honesty, willingness, brotherly love, and all those, principles that most people live by on a normal basis, right? Anyway, so I remember one time and I would go into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, and and don't get me wrong, because I didn't transform immediately. It wasn't like, okay, bam, okay, now I'm a good guy. No, it happened incrementally. Mm-hmm. When I would go in, I brought all this mentality with me, the prison tier ethic. As a matter of fact, the prison tier ethic stood with me until I started teaching at a community college. And I remember thinking, you know what? You can't be doing that, man. You cannot be dogging students, right? You cannot treat them as though they're on the prison tier. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because I was being hard, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so it took time for me to develop a softness. Okay. Right? Like, so the conscience made me understand you're being too hard, man.
Okay.
You're not in prison anymore. These people don't know. They don't know anything about the values that you are, adhere to. Right. So you need to mellow out here.
Okay.
And I started mellowing out, and I started going to college. I January of 1997, I enrolled in San Joaquin Delta College.
What was that like? What was that like, Doctor, when you first decide? How old were you? And you had to go into the registrar's office and fill out the paperwork. Tell us what that made you feel. All of a sudden, you're not a criminal. You're going into the university. You're going into a college. Walk us through and help us tell us what that did to your self image.
Just so you folks will know, I know you've been on buses going from one prison to the next. That's the way I felt. I felt like I was going to a different prison, right? And I walked, but I remember thinking, wow, whenever I went from one prison to the next, I would always be apprehensive, but as soon as I would see somebody that I knew, and I would say, hey man, who's here? And they would tell me so-and-so, okay, boom, it's cool, I'm good. Well, at the community college, I didn't know nobody. So I walked there and, and I was like, wow, you know what I mean? And then I remember hearing the voice, hey man, what are these people, what can they do to you, man? You've been where flies don't even land. These people can't do nothing to you, man. And I said, all right. So I started going through, I took an assessment test. I did all the process. And I remember on the third day, once I was done.
How old were you, Doctor?
I was 45 years old, bro.
45 years old. And what was your educational level before then?
I didn't have an educational level. I got expelled in sophomore. And I never got a high school. I don't have a high school diploma.
Did you have a GED?
No.
So you didn't participate in educational programs in prison. You don't start until you're 42?
45.
45 years old. You decide to start education. And so you have to go through, what do you have to go through?
So I had to go in and I had to take an assessment test to assess my level of comprehension, reading, mathematics, and all that, right? And I did very well. Comprehension, reading, writing, all that, language. The only thing I was behind was mathematics. So I wasn't good at mathematics. So I had to start from the very bottom, right? So anyway, a level 1. I did the other level 3s and level 1s of mathematics. I did that. I signed up for a counselor through the EOPS, the different programs that they have available to people that are disenfranchised like me, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so I went in there and, and I never talked, bro, because, I didn't want people to know that I was an ex-con. I thought everybody knew, you know what I mean? I thought everybody could see it. Because I know every time I see an ex-con, I know that he knows that I know that he knows, man. Right. That's just the way it is, you know what I'm saying? And so, but people don't know. You think they know, but they don't. It's the only way they know is if you tell them.
Okay.
Well, I didn't tell them. So the first semester, I almost gave up, bro, because you know what? College is hard.
It's hard, but you know what's harder? You know what's harder, brother?
Yeah.
Serving time in the shoe, living your life in prison. That I got to tell you, college is hard, but failure is even harder.
To me, it wasn't hard. That was easy. Because I had done it for 30 years.
Right.
Now I got to do it the right way. I don't know how to live the right way.
Yeah.
So I'm learning.
That's the sad thing. The more you learn how to live and stay in prison, you learn how to live in prison. We got to learn how to live out here. Tell us some more.
It's hard. And I almost gave up. But at the end of the first semester, I created a plan. I said, man, I got it. I know how to do this. I'm going to do it semester by semester with the goal to get a bachelor's. Okay? So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to get my AA. So I did it. Boom, boom. Every semester I would do an educational plan. I had an education. This is the classes I'm going to take. This is what's going to be. This is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. I did all that, right? And I would go to my counselor and I would give him my plan. And he would go, oh, this is a good plan. I say, okay. Every semester I would do that. Boom, here you go. And he would say, great, this will get you. So it took me 2.5 years to get an AA only because of my mathematic underdevelopment, right? So I had to develop it. But generally right now it takes 4 to 5 years for people to get regular people. I'm not talking about convicts. I'm talking about regular people that never been in trouble to get an AA about 4 or 5 years. That's what the statistics show. Okay. It took 2.5 years. Why? The reason I tell you folks is because we, as I said earlier, we have skills, man. We have tremendous skills. All we have to do is learn how to put those skills from a negative into a positive.
But we need people like you to teach us. We need masterminds like you, Dr. De La Cruz, somebody who didn't get the bug, didn't recognize the importance of developing a conscience, didn't recognize the importance of an education until after he'd gone through 30 plus years of failure and said, I've had enough. He developed a conscience. He recognized that he could have changed. My challenge for anybody watching this video is to ask yourself, when am I going to be ready and what's wrong with today? Because I can start learning these skills and getting my educational credentials even while I'm in prison. Even if I don't have access to school, I could get ahead of the game by improving my math skills, right? By just picking up a book and get ahead of the game. Dr. De La Cruz doesn't make any excuses. You can hear he's a man of integrity, of dignity, and he's just no BS. He's a guy who gets it done. And that's what you need to be if you want to change your life. You are listening to the mastermind, Dr. Jesse De La Cruz, author of one of the best-selling books of all times. Would you hold that book up again for us, Dr. De La Cruz? Detour, My Journey from Darkness to Light. Author Dr. Jesse De La Cruz. We are going to hear more of his inspiring story right now. So you get through that associate's degree, Dr. De La Cruz, before you become an author. How much further do you go?
Well, what happened was I met a guy. I didn't meet the guy. I heard about him. And let me tell you, man, somebody said, you know what, this guy, man, he's an ex-doping and he's already he's working on his master's. And you know what, you should talk to him. So one day I seen him and I go, hey, listen, you know what, this is what I heard, man. I heard that you're a former heroin addict and that you're getting a master's degree. And I would like for you to sit down with me if you have time and give me the path. Give me how did you do it? He goes, come on. And we sat down and he began to tell me, you have to do this and this and this and this. And he gave me a timeline on how to do it. And I said, okay, man, I'm going to do that. And so I wrote it down and I kept it in my notes and my notepad. I had like a journal and I said, okay. And so, I would look at this journal and I would look at this. Okay, I'm following the instruction. Okay, cool. And so I followed his path. When I graduated with my AA, I went to the ceremony because, I never went to a high school ceremony. I went to the ceremony. The only one that went and my whole family was my niece. But it doesn't matter to me. I understood. I had been a monster for a long time. And so here I am and I'm in Stockton, a bar, So she came and we took pictures and I was really moved and I was inspired and I had already been accepted to California State University, Stanislaus. I had been accepted at Berkeley, but I didn't go to Berkeley because I had just gotten custody of my 5-year-old daughter and I didn't want to move her. You know what I mean? So I said, it don't matter to me where I go, man. The degree is a degree. Now, if I go to Harvard or something, but I'm not, it didn't matter to me, So I said, cool. And I was ready. I took that summer off. when September came or August came of 1999, I started the university. And once again, there was a young lady, a white girl who came from a well-to-do family who took me to school every day, 3 times a week. We would go to school. We had the same classes. I helped her. She's really grateful to me for helping her. She wasn't an ex-con. She was just a regular girl, a rich girl actually, but she always credits me with helping her getting her BA. She always helped me with rides and all that. And so in 2001, I got my bachelor's in sociology.
Congratulations, brother. You became an educated man, but you didn't stop with a bachelor's, man. You went on. Tell us some more.
So what happened was I applied for the master's in social work program and at Stanislaus State, and I was accepted, and I got in, and I was in, and 2 years later, I got a master's. And what happened, bro, I got scared, bro.
Okay.
The system has, gatekeepers. One of the gatekeepers is called the GRE test.
The Graduate Records Examination.
Exactly. And I was scared to death of that thing, man, because I had heard a lot of stuff about it. So I convinced myself that a master's was good enough.
Uh-huh.
But what would happen, bro, was this. I'm a very vocal individual, and I'm a sharp individual, and I know what I do real well. And I know the criminal justice system real well. I know I know criminals really well. I know substance abuse really well because I was an abuse, So I would hear things like, well, he's really very smart. He's got a master's, but he's an ex-con. So I said, man. So anyway, I got a job as a program director for a company that does Matt Moore and them. They do BI. I helped them come into Stockton, opened up the first day reporting center. They were.
What year was that, Doctor?
That was 2008. 2008. Okay. And so I got a job there. I bought a house. I got a dog. It was me and my daughter, right? And bought a brand new truck, Chevy Avalanche. I was making about $75,000-$80,000 a year plus bonuses. I worked for them for about 2 years, and then something happened, and and the penitentiary came back. Some of the behavior, and I cussed out the boss, and I told him, you can get this job and stick it up your butt. I'm gone, and I left. And they were shocked, right? Because it was up about $100,000 a year, man.
Right.
You just don't walk away from $100,000, right? And
that's a nice income, particularly in the Central Valley.
Oh, and for an ex-con, come on.
Right. Okay.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? But once again, I got to go back to the fact that we have skills, man.
Right.
We don't use them correctly. We waste our talent.
But you know something? That door may have closed on you, but another door opened for you. You had the wisdom to say, I built myself. I'm self-made. How did you go on building yourself after that?
Well, I started teaching at a community college, and I realized that wasn't me in that setting, because we're dealing with a different population. My population is the people that are looking at this podcast, the people in the penitentiary, the people that are like me. Because I'm going to tell you that I am them and they are me.
And they're learning from you right now. They need you. You are so much more valuable to them than anybody else can be because of your life experiences and what you've done. And you know what? They are seeing themselves right now in you. They are seeing, I can do this. If Dr. Cruz can change his life when he's 45 years old, develop a conscience, get an education, get a job where he's making $100,000 a year, and then reinvent himself again, I can do it too. They just got to learn from the doctor. Continue.
Well, the thing about it, look, so what happened was I started to teach, and then I started to contact lawyers, right? And I began to tell them, look, this is what I have to offer. But I didn't have no experience except one case. Remember only that one case that I had.
Well, our readers didn't hear about it. I know about that case. Tell us what you did where you earned a living serving the legal community.
Well, I did a case in 2000 where this individual was charged as a gang member for a murder, and he was facing the death penalty. And they were saying that he had done the murder in the direction of, for the benefit of, and an association of the gang. And I testified in that case at the preliminary hearing, and the judge dismissed the gang allegations as a result of my testimony. So I sort of had gotten a taste of that, but it wasn't a good experience.
But doctor, how much did they pay you to offer that expert testimony?
I was paid $125 an hour.
Okay, so let's just pause right there. If you are sitting in prison, and you can look at Dr. Jesse De La Cruz, an individual who served more than 30 years in prison, heavy background of violence, as he described in his first podcast, heavy background with substance abuse, but yet managed to transform his life, get out of jail, and not live this life of mediocrity, but making $100,000 a year with a company and $125 an hour on his own. You see, there are no limits once you change your conscience, once you shift your philosophy, once you make a decision to become successful. And the beauty of this is once Dr. De La Cruz became successful, the more successful he became, the stronger his interest became to protect his success. And that influenced what he was. He still connects and communicates with people in prison, but in his heart, in his core, the world sees him as a successful, contributing citizen, and that's why I'm so inspired and so grateful to him for sharing this episode with us, because he's giving the message that people in prison need to hear. So, Dr. De La Cruz, you said you had that taste. You were now talking about how you advanced that career after your experience as a professor.
So then what happened was I connected with different lawyers that I knew. And what I did is I presented to groups of lawyers, and I gave them my CV, my curriculum vitae, and my background, and so forth and so on. And they said, okay. And so they started hiring me, sporadically. But, I started building my reputation.
Yes.
And I started learning about how to be an expert witness, how to say, how to be able to give the narrative to the juries, right? So that they could understand that this individual was a human being, and what they were saying about him as it pertains to the gang was not correct. So I started to learn all that, right? And more people started, hiring me. And so what happened was in 2010, I decided, man, I'm going back to school. You know what I mean? And I went back to school. I re-enrolled again in Stanislaus State because now I had an opportunity to go to Davis to get a PhD in sociology, or Stanislaus State and get an EDD, a doctorate in education. Okay. Now, the options were, if I go to Stanislaus State, I would meet Friday night and Saturdays, 12 blocks from my house, or I could go to Davis and meet Friday and Saturday when I would have to drive 60 miles and then 60 miles and then 60 miles and then 60 miles, which was better, Stanislaus State. So I went to Stanislaus State. So I started that process, and I chose a topic on gangs to do my dissertation, my research. And let me show you, this is the research, this is the book, my dissertation. It's a dissertation, it's a research study. This is a capstone. In other words, this is what you have to complete in order to achieve a doctorate. And what I didn't know at the time was that 50% of the people that start grad school to get a doctorate, a PhD, EDD, drop out.
They're all ABD, all but dissertation.
Exactly. And it doesn't mean nothing. You're all but, you're not a doctor.
That's right.
Line. So I completed there was 14 in my cohort. There was 14 of us, and 12 of us completed, and I was one of them.
Doctor, when you received that EDD, how old were you?
62.
So he starts his education at 45. He gets his educational doctorate when he's 62. That is 17 years of education. But what it has done is it has put him at the top of his class. He is a world-class citizen now, more educated than probably all but 5% of the population. And it has really resulted in him living a life of fulfillment, contribution, complete transformation. Former violent criminal, former substance abuse addict, but has completely found the good in his life by shifting his conscience, by developing his conscience, shifting his philosophy, and now building an awesome career. And how has your career blossomed since you've earned your doctorate, Doctor?
You know, I met this other individual. I don't know if you know him. His name is Victor Rios. You know him?
I know Victor Rios. I've written about him. I've not met him, but I know he's a professor, I think, down in Pomona, right?
No, UC Santa Barbara.
Okay, Santa Barbara, yes. I saw a couple of his books.
So, yeah, he's written some nice books and good books. And anyway, so I talked to him on the phone. I got his cell number. I talked to him periodically, right? So he says, hey, Jess, he goes, listen, and he's younger than me, right? He's younger. He goes, listen, when you get your PhD, when you get your doctorate, he goes, you don't even know what's going to happen. Your life is going to blossom to the point where you're not even going to know what the hell's going on, right? And I go, okay. Well, he was right. And I completed everything, submitted everything. July 2014. Okay. August 2014. My hourly fee jumped from $125 to $200 an hour with no questions asked.
$200 an hour is what Dr. De La Cruz is earning right now, providing his expert testimony. And I want to say it's hard-earned testimony. He spent 30 years in the penitentiary to get it. He paid a heavy price of overcoming substance abuse to get it. But now he is sought after. I interviewed him a little bit before this show, and I happen to have some inside information of just how much he billed in the first month of this year. Would you mind sharing that with our audience, Dr. De La Cruz?
Well, you know, in January, I got a check, one check in a case that I did from August to November. I finished November 1st, you know, but I was working on other cases, but I didn't get paid until January of this year, which I'm glad because of taxes. But it was for $62,725.86. I should have taken a picture of it, but I didn't. But anyway,
because it's normal for you to get big checks like that. That is
not that kind of check. That was the biggest check. I get checks where, you know, I'll get $13,000, $15,000, you know, $4,000, $7,000.
So in a typical month, what do you typically earn on a month because of your work?
Well, it's at the point now where it averages out to about $20,000 a month.
$20,000 a month. This is an individual who served 30 years in prison, overcame substance abuse. When I call him a mastermind, now you can understand why. He isn't a guy who made excuses. He isn't a guy that waited for the world to hand him something. He went out and he earned the credentials that he needed to earn. He shifted his philosophy. He's demonstrated that he is the best in the world at what he does. And lawyers from across the United States are reaching out to him because he gets results. Why does he get results? Because he's authentic. That's why he's a mastermind. I'm so impressed with you, Doctor, and I'm so grateful for you for sharing your story with our audience.
I want to share something with everybody. You know, I never made $20,000 a month when I was out there, you know, breaking the law. At least I don't remember. You know, I mean, I'm sure I made money, you know, because I stole every day, you know, but the end result was the penitentiary. now when I go to the mailbox,
they shake your hand.
When I go to the mailbox, right, and I get I put it this way, I have so much money. Like right now I'm waiting on $10,000, a little over $10,000. But this week coming up, I'm billing approximately $24,000. So, and then yesterday I got 2 cases, you know what I mean? So that's another 15,000. Yeah. I mean, but I got a lot of other cases. I got a case right now in New Jersey. I'm sharing this with you folks, you young men and you older men, whoever you are, only not to brag, brother, just to let you know, man, that I'm not any better than you, man.
I want to make clear, you are doing exactly what you have to do, because those people in prison, they're getting the message that there's not going to be a job waiting for them. There's not going to be an opportunity. They do not have enough role models like you. And it's you that can show them what they can become. That's what earning freedom is all about. That's what success after prison is about. I don't want people thinking, I'm going to get out and the only job's going to be for me $8 an hour or $9 an hour. Here, if you put in the work, if you adjust yourself accordingly, like the doctor has learned, you become successful.
But listen to what I'm about to say, because I don't want you to get disillusioned, right? I started off making $800 a month. But my resolve, because what I had seen and what I knew that I was capable of doing, if I had an opportunity, if I had developed a reputation, if I could do that, I knew I could. So entrepreneurship, that's the key for people like us. We have to develop our own business. So you have to create a plan while you're in the penitentiary. You create a plan. What am I good at? What can I do? Am I good at this? Can my past become my greatest asset? Can I do that? That's what you got to do. So some of you are mechanics. I'm not a mechanic. You know what? I'm having my kitchen redone right now. Okay. My kitchen is being redone right now. It's going to cost me $14,000, a little bit more than $14,000. Okay. The guy that's doing it is an ex-con. He's an ex-con and he's doing a fantastic job, man.
That's
and
awesome.
You know what? Okay. So I don't know how much I know, but if I look at the contract, but let me tell you something, bro. This guy is making about $8,000 in about 2.5 weeks. And he's not here every day because he's doing other jobs. So I don't know how much he's making, but he's making $14,000 from me. So my point to you is there's no shame in the game. Nobody's telling you, hey, you have to adhere to what I do. No, you can be a mechanic because we need mechanics. You can be a carpenter because we need carpenters. You can be a plumber. Plumbers make $40-45 an hour, man. There's nothing wrong with $40-45 an hour.
But what it all starts with, doctor, is having that shift in consciousness, developing a moral compass, making a commitment to do well, because you can't walk both sides.
You cannot.
You got to be solid. You got to be straight. You got to choose who you're going to be with, and then do it 100% commitment. That's what we teach in Earning Freedom. That's what we learned from Dr. Jesse De La Cruz.
You're either in the car or you're not. And if you're not in the car, then you're in the trunk. Because nobody, and the trunk means you're in prison. So that's it. So, you can continue the path of being a tough guy, but you can't go to the bank with tough guy. You can continue on, showing people how, whatever, but nobody cares, bro. In the real
nobody cares if you can control the TV set. Nobody cares if you're the shot caller.
Nobody cares, man. Nobody cares. I'm serious, bro.
They're not going to pay you for being a shot caller in prison.
I got to share one story real quick, man.
Talk to us.
There's a guy, man. He did 32 years straight. And he did 16 of that 32 years at Pelican Bay in the hole. And, he went to prison when he was 17 years old for a murder. And he got out. And he had great intentions, man. And I helped the guy because I embraced him because I understood, and I did for him what nobody did for me. I bought him a car, right? Well, it turns out homeboy is using, he's on his way back, man. It's a matter of time. And he's got tremendous talent. And I talked to him 2 days ago and I told him, you know what, man, you got to quit playing the role, man. He goes, man, I'm tired of people. And I go, look, homeboy, listen to what I'm about to tell you. You were talking about healing communities. You were talking about change. You were talking about all these positive stuff to the people. And now the people that you were telling all this stuff to, they see that you're a fraud. So they talk about you. That's what we do. If you quit telling people that you're this guy who you're not, they're going to not talk about you. They don't talk about me. When they talk about me, you know what they say? Man, I wish I could do what he did. And I tell them you can. But you have to put the work in, man. And you have to
put the work in. Doctor, we've got to end this, and otherwise we're going to run out of storage space and not be able to save this on a CD. I just want to say thank you, Dr. De La Cruz. You've given us a wonderful resource. You're going to inspire tens of thousands of people through your impressive, inspiring story. I want to encourage anybody who is listening to, could you hold up your book again, Dr. De La Cruz? Anybody who is listening, I want to encourage you to get a copy of Detoured, My Journey from Darkness to Light by Dr. Jesse De La Cruz. I know that he's got a sample chapter on his website. I'm going to ask if I can get a copy of that sample chapter to put on our website so that you can download it and learn about his eloquence, learn about his story, more importantly, learn how you can do the same thing. It doesn't happen by accident or happy talk. It happens by being authentic. That's all we have time for today. I'm going to give Dr. De La Cruz the last word. Why don't you say goodbye to our guests, and we'll have you back on again if you'll join us another time, Doctor.
Well, I just want to encourage everyone to keep pushing forward, man. And listen, man, if you can't move forward, do not take a step back. Sit down, because it's temporary. Everything is temporary. It'll pass. And then when it passes, you get up and you start walking forward again.
And if you fall down, you just get up again. That's right.
One more thing. Remember, you're in the first round of a championship fight, man.
Awesome. That's the wisdom of Dr. Jesse De La Cruz, educational doctorate, expert witness who testifies in courtrooms across the United States, sought out by lawyers and judicial systems, a leader and an inspiring figure like no other. Published author. I'm so grateful to have him, so proud to have him on the Earning Freedom podcast. We will be back tomorrow with another inspiring guest. On behalf of my two partners, Sean Hopwood and Justin Paperny, we thank you for listening to the Prison Professors podcast. We strive to inspire people and educate people who are going into the criminal justice system, who are in prison or who have come out of prison. We show that with a deliberate mindset, you can overcome anything. If you'd like to know more about our work, please visit prisonprofessors.com or text the word PrisonPro to 44222. Thank you. Back tomorrow with another inspiring guest.